Hi, this is Andrew. In this video I take a trip to Point Beach State Forest to experience winter on Lake Michigan, work on my photography, and experiment with new ways of sharing my experiences in nature. I selected a day when there would be a good chance of sunrise with few clouds and hopefully not too cold. Other than the weather forecast and sunrise at 7:19 a.m., I didn't know what to expect at the shore, even though I've been to this beach many times. There could be huge piles of ice, and I didn't know what the lake levels have been or how much the sands have shifted. Those variables could mean that there would be little beach to walk on. I headed out into the dark literally and figuratively with a plan of being there about a half an hour before sunrise. It was above freezing when I left, but as I got close to the lake, the temperature dropped. Some fog filled a few low spots, and the road got very slick, but at least it was for only about the last 15 minutes of the drive. Out of the car now, I had to force myself into the cold. I stepped up onto the beach and watched a shadowy figure of a fluffy fox dart from the lake shore to the tree line for safety. I was clearly the first person on the beach this morning. For photography, I decided I wanted to put myself in a position where I could photograph the early sunlight striking the Rowley Point Lighthouse. For a week, I had been imagining the rising sun would give the lighthouse a nice golden glow. I also set up a camera to capture a time-lapse of the sun itself, framed between an opening in the dunes. As soon as I had gotten set up with my time-lapse, another photographer with the same lighthouse idea arrived. I was surprised to see someone, and I suddenly felt vulnerable leaving my camera, and I tied myself to the spot where I already was. The other photographer picked a better spot, but I still liked mine and stuck it out there. The sunrise came up, and the lake and the beach were the real show. The lighthouse, a beautiful and interesting structure, seemed like a toy or a postcard of a place, although attractive, did not hold my interest. I waited and planned for this moment. Now I felt like I was taking someone else's photograph, or a photograph I was supposed to take. Sure, I would take a picture of the lighthouse. It's pretty, but it doesn't mean that much to me. I can feel a photograph of the early cold winter sunlight playing on the water and the ice and the air itself. The light reflecting off the brick and the glass makes me think that this is a nice photo. I'm supposed to take a picture like that. I've learned a lesson, and I move closer to the water, where I am dumbfounded by the scene and mesmerized by the light. And I wander too close to the lake, and a foot breaks through the frozen slush, and it plunges into the icy water, and it feels like fire. I figure my trip is over, then I remember it isn't all that cold outside, and my foot will heat up the water inside the boot and the sock. It'll be uncomfortable, but not dangerous. My winter trip to the beach can continue. I move to escape the fragile aggregate of frozen snow and ice, and my foot breaks through again and again. For some reason, it's my left foot every time, but I make my way to firm ground. As I continue my beach outing, I see an animal up ahead that's on its own beach excursion. It's too far away to make out well through the viewfinder, but it looks like a mink, an aquatic weasel running on the beach. However, looking at the video later, it's obviously a muskrat, an aquatic rodent. I want to get a better look, but it's moving so fast I won't ever catch up to it without running after it, and then I'd appear to be harassing wildlife. I wonder what it's up to. It seems awful dangerous to be out in the open like that, but the muskrat knows its business much better than I do. I look for its tracks, but the sand is frozen and does not yield much even to my own heavy feet, and not at all to something as light as a muskrat. Beaches always feel like summer, and wandering a beach in winter feels like walking into a store after it's closed, like you're not supposed to be there. A little like some alternative universe, but in reality it is just a place where most people have turned their backs on, at least for a season. With the sun up for some time now and the weather rather pleasant, at least for this time of year, a few people are walking the beach. More than I expected, but with Christmas a few days away, there are probably more people off of work. I've walked this section of beach long enough. It's time for some breakfast and to hike somewhere else. With some food in my belly, I drive to the southern part of the park and the Ice Age Trail for a walk through the woods and to a different section of beach. The trail starts at the Molash Creek, if I'm saying that right, and it winds through the forest in a very indirect path to the beach. The forest is a mix of oak, pine, and maple. I am greeted by a small flock of rather human-tolerant black-capped chickadees, and there's also a small group of red-breasted nuthatches that are also rather trusting. Bird life is sparse this time of year, as are my skills to film them. After following the wandering trail, I arrive at the beach, which, while it looks the same as where I was earlier, it feels quite different. It feels different because I had to walk a mile to it, rather than just pull up in my car and immediately step onto sand. It feels different because I had the forest to buffer me from the car, from the asphalt, the buildings, and other developments. I feel ready to immediately take in the nature at this beach. So I learned to relearn some lessons today. I'm not the kind of guy to get the perfect shot of a lighthouse. I'd rather wander and see nature around it and grab the same lighthouse snapshots as everyone else gets to share on social media. The sand, waves, vegetation, and the forest at the edge are all much more interesting to me. They're interesting to me because I see them, I feel their biologies, stories, and histories, real and imagined. I'm sure the lighthouse has a fascinating history of its own, but I didn't read up on the story of this lighthouse, and so I felt no real connection to it, other than a simple appreciation for its beauty. I should have done more research to connect with it before heading into the car that morning. Beauty without context does not inspire.
Thanks for coming along with me to Point Beach and documenting this stuff in a new way, experimental kind of day. Turned out beautiful. See how it turns out on video, and thanks for watching.